And next, I'd like to put your hands together and welcome to the stage our next inspiring case study. Please put your hands together for Luke Spires.
My name is Luke Spikes, and I'm not from Liverpool. The first thing I'm also going to do is accuse the very person who inspired my arrival in this group of lying. Simon, you may have told a very significant mistruth. I thought this program was all about property. I thought that I would come along, I'd learn how to buy some properties, I would make a little bit of profit, and life would be good. No, it's not. I'd like actually a little bit of audience participation, if that's possible. This picture, I appreciate, is small and over to the right, but can you tell me who is in that picture with me? Now, the fact that you know that actually is a testimony to that woman's strength. She's a kind, caring, compassionate, and beautiful soul. But every year for the past, she's also the mother of our 4 children. I think she's the mother of our 4 children. I think I'm their father too. So, however, for 27 years, for 6 months of the year, she has descended into a dark, desperate, difficult place. And any of you who have battled with mental illness will know exactly what it is I'm talking about. It requires a rod of iron, a steel, to not slip. She manages that somehow for 6 months of the year. And that in of itself, for me, is a real inspiration. The date that you see there is actually her birthday. She had just come out of her dark place and was just about repairing, just about recovering. So I decided that a really good thing to do would be to bring her back from Spain, where she was on a retreat, early, have her come to Birmingham to spend 3 days talking about property, of which that time she was not remotely interested, on her birthday. She supports me. And actually my belief in her is far stronger than her belief in herself. So I gave her a role. I said, whether you like it or not, you are coming on this journey with me. I believe that there is, in fact, a contribution that you can make. And we created and carved a role. Now, you might imagine a degree of resistance. But I persisted, and you'll hear me say that word several times. I persisted. I asked her to help me. And then something amazing happened. With this focus and emphasis on the purpose that that role created for her, and working side by side with me, she did not, in August, September, descend into the black space. Okay? So, that I was not expecting. I actually have my wife, who I married 30 years ago, back. I was not expecting that. Then, as we became more active, involved in the program, this young Chinese woman informed me that I was her mentor. I have never coached nor mentored anyone in my life. Quite what he saw in me, I have absolutely no idea. But it does feel, in fact, like I've actually acquired a Chinese daughter. That I was not expecting. And then, as we were rolling through the program, and I started to think a little bit about what it was our strategy was going to be and how we were going to execute it, this mad helicopter pilot, snowboarding, surfing dude, who also happens to be an active participant in this program, rocked up and said, I like what you're doing with Higgy House. Not sure I could accomplish the same things myself, but I tell you what, you're going to need some help. And you're going to need some help dealing with all the management, construction, refurbishment, all the stuff is necessary and essential if what it is you're going to do is to build a business. How about we join forces? And then he did something which, to my mind, was quite remarkable. He's a trader. I'm a creator. He's a trader. he came up with the support of Bernadette Lloyd, who also is a lord, with quite possibly the most creative structure for an arrangement I have ever imagined. Traders and lords are actually capable of being creative. That I was not expecting. And then, as we talk more about this group, and we get to know people in the group, it's very clear there are a bunch of very energetic, very capable, very committed, very passionate individuals, and to my mind, investable people. The consequence of that, I was fortunate enough having done, this is my 7th startup, by the way, which does actually make me certifiably insane, I'm sure. However, this is my 7th startup, so I came into this with a little bit of money. No property experience, but I have a little bit of money. And as I was actually, in fact, there is one person here I think is older than me, Jonathan. I believe he was something to do with the construction of Stonehenge. I'm not sure, but, but he may well have been, who actually allowed me, by demonstrating and creating an example, to release some of my own money, which I was very fearful of releasing early on. And I thought, oh, okay. What I should therefore do is make good use of the capital instead of sitting on it. Consequence of that is, Will, energetic, creative, hard-working, needed some funding. We had a conversation, and I'm delighted to say that I have been able to invest in Will's dreams. Similarly, Andrew Badger, who we all know and love, who is unfortunately not here today because he's not well. He's had to stay back in Hungary or whichever country he happens to be currently in. Actually, as we all know, it's actually Zach who's in the back there who runs the business, isn't it? It's not Andrew. But the same thing happened with Andrew. And what was very encouraging for me is I've spent a fair number of years in business, so I have no problem asking for money. In fact, there's a wall of money out there. If you have the right deals and the right structure and you present it packaged, there's a wall of money. So I was sort of coaching them on, guys, they were dancing around a little bit. I said, what is it you want? What do you need? Just ask me. They did. And I said, wasn't that easy? Because the answer is yes, there you go. And so actually being able to help others address some of the things that they're struggling with has been actually a remarkable and beneficial thing for me in terms of my own personal development. I'm actually 55 years of age. I am going to admit that I'm 55 years, therefore, saga generation. I've started to receive things in the post about incontinence pads, insurance that I probably don't need. And so I now have arrived at that point where clearly I am old and I need to think about what happens next to my mortality. I haven't bought another dog. What I have done is gone back to university. Now, that's sounding more grand than it is. Actually, what I've done is I've enrolled in business school to take a certificate and diploma from the Institute of Leadership and Management in coaching and mentoring. I figured if people are going to ask me to mentor, I might as well stop making it up as I go along and actually learn how to do it properly. But, you know, old dogs can learn new tricks, is the point. And then finally, this handsome young man who fortunately has inherited the looks of his mother and his mother's hair is my youngest son, who is 18 years of age. He goes to business school in Manchester next year. He has become increasingly interested in what I have been doing. That's the first time ever. This is my 7th startup. They have no idea what I did before this because it's all techie stuff that was just not interesting. This young man is so committed and so keen. We've actually ended up with him. He is going to start Higgy House Manchester. He's going to be running a small portfolio of service accommodation, which I will help him secure on a rent-to-rent basis. I provide some money, and then his objective is to build that business, run that business with his girlfriend, who is also studying in Manchester, so that by the time he emerges, it's cost him and me no money at all. All of that I was not expecting. So if anyone tells you that coming and being part of the Mastermind program is in fact all about property, it's not. Property, of course, underpins it, but actually that's the common thing that binds us all together. It is actually the personal development, the personal journeys that we have all come on. And for me, that is actually the most exciting. However, I did do some property stuff. I listened. My mother will tell you that that's probably the first time in my entire life. I learned, although I'm constantly seeking and listening and trying to understand from others what I can learn. I mean, that's another message that's come from the presentations that have come today. And I took action, massive action, I guess you might argue. So in the year between birthdays, I just thought that was a reasonable period, because that was when we sort of started, we have managed to achieve a gross development value of 4.1 million. We started from pretty much zero. I knew nothing about property. If I can do it, then so can anyone else. Although I knew about purchasing properties, because of course I've owned them, I've lived in them, I continue to live in them, I didn't know about rent to rent, I didn't know about exchange or delayed completion, I didn't know about purchase options, I didn't know about purchase lease options, I didn't know what an RX1 was. These are all things that we have used during the course of this year to arrive at 4.1 million and an annualized income of 182k. 42 rooms and 8 flats. So we've been busy and taken some action. Now, one of the things that people have asked me a couple of times is, so what is your strategy? And what they mean by that is it rent to rent? Is it service accommodation? Is it a property strategy? And that confused me, because what do you mean, what strategy? I've run businesses. I build businesses. I've done it for 33 years. I've created 500 jobs on 3 continents. My first question is, what's the problem we're trying to solve? Who is the customer? Why would they buy from us? Then I might determine how best to go about serving that particular customer. So my take on property is a slightly different perspective from the take that there might be for many of us in the room. And that is, I look for a problem to solve and a customer to serve. That was where I started. I happen to have 4 millennials, 18, 20, 25, 27. I won't reveal Mi's age because she's become my 5th child, but she is a millennial. And it was there that I was looking, because I was listening, and what I was hearing was there is a problem. There is a problem in that there is a significant shortage of quality accommodation that meets their needs, that meets the needs of the young professional of today. And when we get under the surface and what that actually means, it's very revealing. So what I have done is to start first and say, this is the market I want to serve. This is the problem I want to solve. How do I go about solving that? What can I do to create a product or a solution that addresses that need? Again, a slightly different way of thinking about it. So those in this room will know there is a reason why I'm wearing an orange tie. It's not that I am have appalling taste in ties, although you might argue that now you've seen me wearing an orange tie. It's that orange has become very much the signature colour for the Higgy House business that they're in the process of building. This is our rooms, as you all know. We've used the pictures and the images of what it is we're creating to reasonably good effect on social media in terms of building our assets, building our brands, and creating awareness and credibility in and around what it is we're doing. But you will hear me talk about product. You'll hear me talk about platform. Who here has an Audi? Anyone drive an Audi car? No one? A Volkswagen? You all drive Bentleys or something, do you? I don't know what it is. Okay. What may surprise you is they're all based on a standard platform. So even though you are looking at car A and think it's fundamentally different from car B, and the price may be fundamentally different, actually under the hood they're pretty much the same chassis, same engine, same structure. They do that for good reasons. So what I have done is I've said, I am going to think about a platform. So our platform is a common look, a common feel, a design aesthetic and a philosophy. And we've chosen to create, for the moment, shared homes for young professionals to address the needs that we've surfaced, as well as serviced accommodation, but from the same fundamental product and platform. Now, if you want to know more about what underpins that in terms of our philosophy and our thinking, then you can go to our website, which we built early on very deliberately as part of our brand building. Simon will say, you don't need a website. I argue and say, yes, you do. In this day and age, yes, you do. If what you want to do is to do what I've done, which is to build a brand and create attraction and a business around what it is we're talking about. Now, this is my GDV-ometer and my net cash flow-ometer, which became the vometer and the flometer. We're active in 2 cities, Bristol and Swansea, and I won't go into the reasons why, but we are. And we're executing co-living and we're co-living serviced accommodation. So what will happen is the vometer and the flometer will fill as we progress through my little quick tour of the properties and deals that we have done. The first, Hanover, a 5-bed, 5-bath, was a C3 residential property that we went out and got planning permission to convert it to C4 because we were in Article 4, because I decided to invest in Wales. The whole of Wales is Article 4, which makes it a little bit more complex. But then we can create value by finding residential, taking it through the planning process. This was our first challenge, and we were successful. We then did a purchase option on a property that is a 10-bed, will become a 10-bed, 10-bath unit in Swansea. We then were able to secure a purchase lease option. Bryn, Gerald, Panty, Page and Glamour are not Welsh dwarves. They are, in fact, names of roads. Panty, I just put that in there for comic effect. It's actually Panty Gwyder, but I thought Panty somehow sounded better. These are properties that we have effectively purchased on a lease option. It's a 72-month lease option. It's £1 million worth of property and generates about 40k in net for us. Then we have several other properties in Bristol, which are a slightly different approach. We're buying more expensive by their nature because Bristol as a market is that way, but we're driving higher cash flow from these and running these as serviced accommodation to effectively enable us to make the ROI it's necessary to buy more expensive properties as they are in this particular location. So we've got numerous flats. Our first rent-to-rent, two brand new flats in Cabo Circus. And the net total of all of those done between my wife's birthdays is 4.1 million and 182. But it doesn't stop there. There is a line. The line is not the Mastermind year, but we actually have a pipeline of other opportunities that I think are quite interesting and worth bringing to the table and introducing to you now. One is tell everyone what you do. This is the neighbour flat of the first property we bought that has been offered to us at a substantial discount because the vendor needs speed and certainty. He knew what we did. He called me. We've agreed a price. Now, it's on as a P, which is pipeline. F, as it's our first flip. There's a couple of 100,000 in that, we think, ultimately, as we progress forward. This is the same group, from the same landlords from whom we've agreed the purchase lease option. We're now funding flips for them. And in the process, turned it from a loan. They wanted a loan. We said, no, let's not do a loan. I know you well enough now. We're working together anyway. Let's work as a JV. So we've got a JV on flips locally. Then by working relationships, and the most successful approach in terms of sourcing I have had is to find people, get to people who may be able to help me, and then create and develop the relationship which leads to opportunity being presented. We have now 2 new builds opportunities we've been offered. Planning permission has been granted. They've got 12 months to build them. They've offered them to us. Would we like to turn them into higgy houses? So we're going to do a big higgy because it's 2 5 beds next door to another. We're going to specify that they are actually, it can be let as a 1 unit or 2. So we can have a big higgy. In other words, 20 people can rent that for serviced accommodation. And then the real interesting thing for me is that we've now been offered the opportunity to do 2 apart hotels. One is 15 flats in Bristol. We're working now with developers at the stage where we can start talking to them. And then one in Bath as well, which is up to 24 flats. The net of all of those, if one of those is a rent-to-rent, so I haven't included the number in the GDV, the other is a casual 4.25 million. I don't have 4.25 million, but I have every confidence I can find 4.25 million to acquire the units in that particular property, which would take us to 10 million and just north of 552k in net income annually. So what for us? Well, 1,000 homes, you know the objectives, some of you here. We've got some big objectives. I actually want to do some interesting things, however, beyond that, in reflecting upon some of the challenges that society faces with accommodation and see if we can do something to contribute to those. And I want to think bigger. I'll allow this to settle in because some of you were sat here going, 1,000 rooms sounds pretty big to me. 200k a month in net income sounds pretty big to me. I have been challenged by my coaches and mentors. Kirsten is one of those. She also joined the Crystal Circle program to think even bigger. So I'm going to be thinking even bigger. If we can do if we can do 10 million of opportunity in a relatively short moment, why can't we do 100? Why can't we do 100 million? Why can't we do a 250 million pound development somewhere? We could. Which leads me really on to my tips, my techniques, and what I wanted to leave you with. I could talk about visualization, I could talk about focus, I could talk about execution, I could talk about a whole bunch of things I think will be advantageous. There is one thing, however, one thing I think makes the biggest difference. Believe. If you believe with every ounce of your being that you are capable of achieving something, guess what? You will be able to achieve that. I do. And that is what I've been able to bring to what we've done in the last year. I believed we could. I think, therefore I can. Now, I have a little poem that I carry around with me called If, and I've had it with me since I was 15 years of age. And I think it, to me, articulates perfectly the essence of what this program is and what we've all, as a group, been able to accomplish. If you think you are outclassed, you are. If you have to think high to rise. You've got to be sure of yourself before you can ever win a prize. Life's battles don't always go to the stronger or faster man. But sooner or later, the man who wins is the man who thinks he can. So this is the end of our Mastermind year, but for me, it's the beginning of the next stage of my life. So thank you very much for being part of it.